My name is Eleanor Hayes, and at 36, I've spent much of my life as the overlooked middle child in a family that thrived on visible achievements. Until a recent family reunion, my relatives saw me as the one who never quite measured up, despite my role as the founder of a tech empire worth over $1 billion. At our yearly summer gathering, my mother chuckled, "She's just tinkering with computers, don't mind her," while my sister, Vanessa, glowed with pride over her latest corporate milestone. Little did they know, in mere moments, Vanessa's boss would stride into the backyard, spot me, and shift their entire worldview with a single sentence. "Ms. Hayes, I didn't anticipate seeing our CEO here." Before I share how that moment rewrote my family's understanding of me, drop a comment if your own family has ever misjudged your worth. And subscribe for more tales of life's unexpected pivots. Growing up sandwiched between Vanessa, the eldest, and our younger brother Nathan was like fading into the background. Our family had an unspoken pecking order. Vanessa was the star, with flawless grades and predictable ambitions. Nathan was the charismatic youngest, endlessly indulged, and I was the oddball. Our parents, Margaret and Thomas Hayes, defined themselves by their children's successes. Mom, once a local pageant star turned interior decorator, never quite achieved her grand vision of fame. Dad, a financial consultant, equated worth with titles and paychecks. Their home was a stage for constant comparisons, where dinner table talk centered on accolades. Vanessa landed another scholarship, Mom would beam, framing her report card like a masterpiece. My solid but unremarkable grades earned a faint, "Eleanor's doing all right, I guess." Vanessa flourished under the spotlight, ticking off every box on our parents' success checklist. Finance degree, Dad's idea, prestigious internship, Mom's insistence, and relationships with men from reputable families. My passion for coding and tech innovation, however, was brushed off as a quirky pastime. "Computers are for hobbies," Dad declared when I begged for a programming class at Fiend. "Aim for something that'll get you into a solid college." I'll never forget the high school career fair when I shared my dream of launching a tech company to streamline operations for small nonprofits. Mom smiled thinly. "That's cute, dear, but maybe aim for something practical, like Vanessa's role at Sterling Enterprises." I wasn't rejecting their version of success. I was carving out my own. While Vanessa networked at corporate galas, I spent late nights designing apps for local charities and diving into the world of software development. By my final year of college, the pattern was set. Vanessa graduated with honors from an Ivy League school, swarmed with job offers, while my degree from a respected but lesser-known tech institute barely registered. "At least she graduated," Dad muttered at my ceremony, loud enough for me to hear. That same year, I co-founded my first company, Nexus Innovations, with a small team in a cramped office. We built software to empower community organizations, but when I tried to share this at a family dinner, Dad glanced at his phone twice before pivoting to Vanessa's new investment portfolio. "Real estate's where the money is," he said, dismissing my little project. Unbeknownst to him, that project landed a major client that week. I learned to keep my victories private, finding freedom in their low expectations. No pressure, just the quiet thrill of surpassing their assumptions in secret. As Nexus grew, so did the chasm between my reality and their perception. By 29, I led a team of 50, securing deals worth millions. By 31, we had offices in 4 countries. By 34, I was named a tech trailblazer by a major industry magazine, though I used my initials, E. Hayes, to stay under the radar. To the tech world, E. Hayes was a rising star. To my family, Eleanor was still Vanessa's less impressive sibling. Nexus Innovations focused on creating affordable, scalable tech solutions for underserved communities, work that was both fulfilling and complex. I kept a low profile, partly because I believed leadership didn't require fanfare, and partly because I'd grown accustomed to my family's misconceptions. There was a strange satisfaction in thriving without their approval. When Vanessa called last year to boast about her promotion to director at Sterling Enterprises, she added, "You should consider a steady job like mine. Mom and Dad are concerned about your future." From my glass-walled office overlooking San Francisco, I replied, "I'm managing, Vanessa, but thanks." She didn't catch the irony in my voice, just as my parents never noticed my modest condo was a custom-designed penthouse, or that my basic car was a rare electric model with a year-long waitlist. The annual Hayes family picnic was a ritual of polished perfection, a showcase of status that had grown more elaborate with time. This year, I arrived at my parents' manicured estate with a bottle of vintage Bordeaux, a subtle nod to my refined tastes. Dressed in a simple silk blouse, I blended in, though my understated watch cost more than most cars in the driveway. "Eleanor, you showed up!" Mom exclaimed, as if I'd been expected to flake. She accepted the wine without a glance at its $3,000 label. "How nice! I'll set it out with the others." The backyard buzzed with relatives flaunting their successes. Aunt Clara boasting about her new vacation home, Cousin Luke detailing his law firm's latest case. Vanessa, in a tailored dress, held court by the gazebo, her engagement ring glinting as she described her latest deal. "The board specifically chose me to lead the Sterling merger," she said, basking in the family's awe. Dad clapped me on the back. "Still at that tech thing, Eleanor?" "Still there," I nodded. "Well, keep at it. Vanessa's firm is always hiring. Great benefits, you know." I bit back a smile, knowing my company's benefits package outshone anything Sterling offered. As the picnic unfolded, I helped with the catering setup, finding solace in the task while dodging questions about my computer job. Vanessa's husband, David, a cardiologist with a kind demeanor, joined me. "Hiding out?" he teased. "Just staying busy," I admitted. He nodded. "Vanessa's nervous about her boss dropping by later. Wants to make a good impression." "Edward Marshall?" I asked, careful to keep my tone neutral. "That's him. Know him?" Before I could answer, my phone pinged. A message from my COO, Lauren, about the Sterling acquisition. I stepped aside to review the final terms, including a clause I'd insisted on to protect their staff. When I returned, Mom seated me at the cousins' table with the teenagers, while Vanessa and David joined the main table with the adults. Dad's toast celebrated Vanessa's meteoric rise and Nathan's new legal victory, with a vague nod to everyone's health and happiness that presumably included me. Over lunch, I fielded questions from my teen cousin Sophie about tech careers, while Aunt Beatrice leaned over. "Eleanor, are you dating? My friend's son is a nice accountant, stable job." "I'm focused on work," I replied, ignoring Mom's quip about my late bloomer status. Later, as I discussed urban development trends with Dad and Uncle James, I noted, "The tech district's outskirts are ripe for investment, undervalued now but poised for growth." Dad nodded absently, then repeated my advice verbatim to Uncle James, who praised his sharp insight. I excused myself to sign off on the Sterling deal, a $400 million move that would redefine our industry. Back at the picnic, Vanessa regaled everyone with tales of her boardroom triumphs. "Edward Marshall himself said my strategy was pivotal," she said, name-dropping for effect. Mom beamed. Vanessa's always been a leader, even as a child. As dessert was served, the atmosphere shifted. Vanessa whispered urgently, "Edward's here early!" The family snapped into performance mode, adjusting postures and smiles to impress the VIP. I lingered by the drinks, amused by their frenzy. Mom noticed. "Eleanor, stand up straight. First impressions matter." Before I could reply, a cousin murmured, "Who's that by the table? Staff?" Mom laughed. "Oh, she's just into her tech stuff. Pay no attention." The words stung, but I stayed, curious to see how this would unfold. Edward Marshall, a polished man in his late 50s, stepped onto the patio. Vanessa rushed to greet him, but his eyes found me across the lawn. "Eleanor Hayes," he said, striding past her with a warm smile. "Ms. CEO, what a surprise to see you here." The backyard fell silent. Vanessa froze, her face paling. Mom clutched Dad's arm. "Good to see you, Edward," I said, shaking his hand. "Didn't expect you at a family picnic." The silence grew heavy. Vanessa stammered, "You know my sister?" Edward blinked, then laughed. "Your sister? Eleanor Hayes is your sister? Well, that's unexpected. I've been negotiating with her for months over Nexus acquiring Sterling Enterprises." Dad stepped forward, baffled. Acquiring? I don't follow. Edward raised an eyebrow. Your daughter founded Nexus Innovations, valued at over $3 billion. Surely you knew she's been leading the charge to buy our firm. Mom sank into a chair, whispering, She works with computers. Edward chuckled, thinking it a jest. Hardly. Ms. Hayes built Nexus from the ground up. It's a global leader in tech solutions, employing hundreds across 4 continents. Every head turned to me, shock mingling with embarrassment. Is this true? Dad asked quietly. I nodded. It is. Vanessa's voice cracked. You're buying my company? After all my work, my promotion, you're just taking it over? It's a strategic move, I said calmly. Sterling's assets align with our goals. It's not about you, Vanessa. The tension was palpable. Edward, sensing the awkwardness, tried to lighten the mood. This is quite the family reunion, but I assure you, Nexus's acquisition is a testament to Eleanor's vision. My cousin Mark laughed nervously. This is a prank, right? Eleanor's company buying Sterling? Edward shook his head. No prank. The deal closes tomorrow. Nexus is reshaping the tech landscape and Sterling is a key piece. Dad cleared his throat. We didn't realize her company was that big. Edward looked surprised. Big? Nexus is a titan in the industry. Eleanor's known for her quiet leadership, but her results speak volumes. He turned to me. I assumed your family knew you were a powerhouse. The unspoken truth hung heavy. They hadn't known because they hadn't listened. Vanessa's hurt cut through her shock. Why didn't you say anything? All those times I talked about my career, you knew you were... this. I tried, I said softly. Remember when I mentioned our first big contract? Dad asked about your new office? Or when I brought up our European expansion? Mom wanted to hear about Nathan's girlfriend. No one asked questions. Faces around me shifted, some with dawning guilt. Edward pivoted to business. Eleanor's approach is why Nexus thrives, results over ego. She was named Innovator of the Year, though she skipped the gala for a family event, I presume. Nathan's promotion party, I confirmed, recalling another kid's table moment. Mom flushed. We didn't know your work was, significant. David spoke up. She mentioned a big deal last Christmas, and you brushed it off as a website issue. That was probably a multi-million-dollar call. Mom looked stricken. How were we supposed to know? Because, I said gently, you could have listened when I spoke about my work, instead of assuming it wasn't worth hearing. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. You never pushed back. You let us think you were... less. Would you have believed me? I asked. Her silence spoke volumes. Edward excused himself, leaving us to our fractured dynamic. Dad approached, his voice soft. Olivia, I'm sorry. We didn't see you. It's not about apologies, I replied. It's about seeing me for who I am, not who you thought I should be. The picnic dissolved into hushed conversations, relatives suddenly eager to catch up with me. Vanessa retreated to process, and I let her. The hierarchy that had defined us, Vanessa the star, me the shadow, was gone. 3 weeks later, Dad visited my penthouse, a sleek space reflecting my understated style. He brought a small cactus, a shy gesture. Your mother thought it'd suit this, he said, awed by the view. Over coffee, we talked openly for the first time. Why didn't you take me seriously? I asked. He sighed. I was scared for you. Your path seemed so risky. I didn't understand it, so I pushed what I knew. Security, like Vanessa's career. I couldn't see your success because I was blind to your vision. His candor disarmed me. I didn't need you to understand coding, I said. I needed you to believe in me. We were wrong, he admitted. I'm sorry. The apology didn't erase years of dismissal, but it opened a door. I shared Nexus's journey, and he listened, asking real questions. As he left, he hugged me. I'm proud of you, Eleanor, not just for what you've built, but for who you are. The months that followed brought slow healing. Mom sent me tech articles, tentative steps toward understanding. Vanessa and I struggled. She grappled with her redefined role, I with years of being overshadowed. At a lunch months later, she admitted, I thought I was the successful one. Now I don't know who I am. You're still you, I said. This doesn't diminish your work. Gradually, we found a new rhythm, less competitive, more honest. 6 months post-picnic, I hosted a family dinner at my home, blending my worlds. My CFO mingled with aunts, my awards displayed beside childhood photos. I no longer craved their approval. I'd found it within myself. Kenneth, David's new name in this version, noted my resilience. You kept showing up despite their blindness. That's strength. I smiled. I needed to prove I could succeed without losing them. Now I don't need to prove anything. Mom hugged me as she left. Thank you for giving us a chance to see you. The journey wasn't over, old habits lingered, but we were learning to value each other's paths. Being underestimated had shaped me, giving me the freedom to build my life authentically. It wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. What about you? Has being underestimated ever fueled your strength? Share your story below, and if this moved you, subscribe and pass it on. The only validation that matters is the one you find within.